Well, I think this is a good place to move into our final topic. Dennis was discussing how melanoma and squamish lesions stalk us all, and that we should all be checking our skin for when the Green Reaper will be leaving his fingerprints on us. So I'd like to talk about death now, and one person's death in particular. No, not the deaths that made us all very sad this past week. An upcoming death that's sure to make us all very happy. I'm talking, of course, about Washington Post columnist Charles Krauthammer's upcoming date with the grave.
Krauthammer, of course, the worst expansion set for Warhammer 40,000.
Krauthammer 40,000. Yeah. Coming literally the day of when everyone was feeling really bad about Anthony Bourdain dying and just talking about how good he was and just sort of like the integrity with which he, did his career and approached life. And then
you taught me how to be weird.
Yeah. The same day, Charles Krauthammer literally announced, I have weeks to live. My cancer has returned. And what was really great about that is in the midst of all of this outpouring of grief for someone like Anthony Bourdain, you got the best, shittiest conservative assholes online got to get in on that action by pretending that, Krauthammer is in the same conversation as like a giant who's, when his light leaves this universe, we will be only in darkness. Fucking Eric Erickson literally said that in 100 years' time, people will still be talking about Charles Krauthammer. Not if I have anything to say about it.
He's got 2 weeks to make history.
Yeah.
Unless he rigs himself with TNT and really makes a scene at the Trump-Kim summit, that's the only way anyone's going to remember. Not even his grandkids are going to remember him unless they buy PlayStation 25 with a matured trust fund. And they're like, hey, why do we have this money? Oh, yeah, our dad wrote a book called, The Specter of Arabs or something.
For those
the most memorable thing about Charles Krauthammer will be that he chose to be buried in one of those German Pickelhaubs.
For those of you who may not know who Charles Krauthammer is, and I'm sorry for introducing you to him, he is basically the OG neoconservative newspaper columnist. He was think about over the last 30, 40 years of American foreign and domestic policy, anything just mind-breakingly stupid and cruel, you can be absolutely guaranteed that Charles Krauthammer had a hand in authoring either support of that policy or, if not the policy itself. Mm-hmm. Even before the Iraq War, which is where he really made his bones, he went all in on fucking arming the Contras and turning all of Central and South America into a fucking slaughterhouse. He was in favor of that. Best factoid about him, and I saw this, a lot of people mentioned this when it turned out he was dying. A lot of people were saying, a lot of people just didn't even know that he was a paraplegic. Charles Krauthammer was paralyzed from the waist down because when he was attending Harvard Medical School in the 70s, he dove into the shallow end of a swimming pool and paralyzed himself.
Oops.
Which I got to say, love to take foreign policy advice from a guy who's literally dumber than Wile E. Coyote. He actually he lost the use of his arms when he drove his wheelchair into what looked to be a tunnel, but was actually just a big black painted hole on a concrete wall.
Yeah, he kind of had the postscript of a villain from Animal House.
It was wonderful. Again, in the midst of a week where we saw a lot of outpouring of grief over the loss of people like Kate Spade or Anthony Bourdain, to see the conservative dorkosphere get to have their moment of public grief sharing
over Dr. Strangelove, played by Peter Sellers,
or Davros from Doctor Who. I'm not endorsing that show, merely the reference. So I'd like to
follow Will's alt account, Time Lord William.
So, again, please don't let anyone guilt you into not celebrating over the death of this person. The world is 1,000% better without him. He will soon be nothing and forgotten. So that's good. But before
his dick work.
But before we all forget Charles Krauthammer, I would like to do a little bit of remembrance before we banish him to the world of ghosts. This is a 1989 column that ran in the Washington Post, and I want to read this, and I want you to keep in mind that when he dies, you are going to hear from people, likely across the political spectrum, if you're allowed to appear on television or write in a newspaper. You are going to hear remembrances of this man, that he was a towering intellect, or that, like, even if you don't agree with him, his sentences or just his intellectual vigor and his pen and lust, or sort of his pride in the sentences he wrote and ideas he helped shape, are admirable. This is a 1989 column entitled "Drown the Berenstein Bears." It begins. This is by Charles Krauthammer. "I hate the Berenstein Bears. If you don't know what I'm talking about, consider yourself lucky. If you do, you too have suffered through volume upon volume of the life of the insufferable bear family. The creation..."
This is so clickhole.
Oh, the
So
wretched
fucking
bears. How I
clickhole.
hate them.
The insufferable
It was
bear.
not spelled that way to begin with.
Curse it, Ursines! I know I speak for thousands, perhaps millions of other parents who share my hostility to these lumbering cuddlies, but who cannot say no to a child who begs for just one more dose. The Berensteins make the begging easy. The back cover of some volumes are thoughtfully filled with full-color covers. Of the others, plus the cheerful admonition, collect them all. It's not just the smugness and complacency of the stories that is so irritating. That is a common affliction of children's literature. The raging offenses of the Berenstein is the post-feminist Papa Bear, the Alan Alda of Grizzlies, a wimp so passive and fumbling he makes Dagwood Bumpstead look like Batman. Dude,
Okay,
he's
first
doing
of
some
all,
Dennis
is he
Miller
calling
shit.
Alan Alda a cuck? Because Alan Alda could hit the back walls. We all know this. We all know this.
No, in the he fought. Alda in the 70s was the original beta male. He was always very sensitive, and he was always worrying about his partner's feelings. And he sort of became early, like before this current wave of masculine anxiety.
However,
he was the guy who was like the non-masculine man.
He's doing.
He was the first soy boy.
He did a little Dennis Miller at the end, but what he did more of, and now I see why they're calling him a towering intellectual. He was the first Jordan Peterson. He was the first, like,
You're right.
Yeah.
grown up conservative to read,
Just
like,
mad at children's books.
he like gets the last page and it's like, then the little bear got all the popcorn stuck on his face because it was too sticky and he didn't wash his hands. And he's like, this is so dangerous to society. If we have to keep black people from seeing this, they'll start getting ideas.
He's a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Well, he was a psychiatrist.
Oh my, yeah. He was. This is Jordan Peterson's Ra's al Ghul.
Amber, you mentioned the Alan Alda thing. I would bet dollars to donuts. The reason he hates Alan Alda is because, as Hawkeye Pierce, he made it cool to make fun of the America's imperial bloodlettings.
Yeah.
So that's probably why he hates Alan Alda. But so it goes on here. It goes, consider the well-known Berenstein Bears forget their manners, wherein mother, fed up with rudeness, sets down a new set of family rules of conduct. Each commandment is accompanied by a penalty: wash dishes, empty garbage, beat 2 rugs. For those family members who dare transgress, Papa glumly acquiesces to the new maternally mandated regime.
Cuck.
When grizzly bears are succumbing to the demands of the mama bear, society is truly lost.
This is if you go back in time, like, are there like Edmund Burke writings where he's mad at like wooden horse toys? Like, is this just a conservative tradition? What the fuck?
He goes.
What are these cornhusk dolls really teaching our girls?
Yeah. Tsar Nicholas the First. These nesting dolls are fucking bullshit. They make people think there's going to be more than there is.
It's matriarchy.
These Tintin books are not racist enough.
So he goes, Papa glumly acquiesces to the new maternally mandated regime, but he proves incorrigible. Long after even the kids have reformed, he continues his slovenly, craven ways, spending much of the tome mopping up around the house to pay off his doltishness. Mother Bear, too, is a creation. Every adult will recognize her as the final flowering of the grade school prissy, the one with perfect posture and impeccable handwriting, the one the teachers loved.
I hate that stupid bitch.
I love the idea that Krauthammer is accusing someone else of being a prissy suck up and fucking teacher's pet. That's the entire career of neoconservative columnists that this guy birthed out of his urethra is entirely that type of person.
Yeah, Brett Stevens was for sure like the class cut up.
Yeah.
It's not like these people like got on this career path because all the people their own age fucking hated them.
Yeah,
and they had to
despised
suck up
them.
to their neocon professors.
So, listen to how specific this is and how angry he gets at the, again, fictional character of the mother Berenstein Bear. The one the teachers loved. The one who disdained your bologna sandwich and pulled fruit salad out of her lunchbox, minding her cholesterol in 1958. The one
What
you
a
always,
fucking
the one you
bitch.
always dreamt of drowning.
What?
what the fuck?
Which is hilarious.
Going back to that, yeah,
He's
little
mad
accident
because
he had in
bears can
college.
swim without suffering spinal injury.
Well, she grew up to marry Father Berenstein of Bear County, and now you have to visit her every night. The reason is, of course, that kids love them. My boy can't get enough of these bears. Every night at bedtime, I offer him a list of stories I might read to him. I bid, what will it be tonight, Daniel? Aesop's Fables, Ulysses and the Trojan Horse, or the Adventures of Ferdinand Magellan? How about the Berenstein Bears and the Sitter, he replies. Bears it is.
I
So
can't.
again-
I can't believe that his son isn't going with Charles Krauthammer's choices, which is like, hey, do you want to read this story about Cecil Rhodes wrestling his good friend, and then read the letters they wrote each other, and then this really weird thing about shooting Zulus? Dad, I just want the bears.
So he goes on to talk about, again, and you're right, very, very Peterson-like, that old-timey fairy tales are better because they teach better lessons about, how lesser countries need to be put under the boot of the strong.
You know, I may be creating another false memory for myself, but doesn't the dad in the Berenstein Bears, he makes the soy face on the cover?
Yes, he does.
There you go.
He's doing the soy face,
guy is an
and he's doing
intellectual
the virgin.
Well, I
walk.
will say that his fear that he was somehow brainwashing his shitty kid did not end up being true because his kid is also a writer for shit like the Weekly Standard and the National Review. So he's a turd neocon in good standing. So the Bernstein Bears somehow did not brainwash him
How is that true of every single one of those guys?
because it's too easy a grift.
Every
Who
single
would say no to
neocon,
that?
it's like a guy and his son.
But who would say no to the easy? It's the easiest fucking job track on earth. You just here. I'll introduce you to all the editors who've been publishing my shit for the past 40 years, and then you just give them shit and they publish it.
A perfect example of that is Jonah Goldberg.
Exactly.
Who literally has a career because his mother convinced Monica Lewinsky to keep the cum-soaked dress. So Jonah Goldberg's career is literally attributable to a cum stain.
Yes.
His career is a cum tribute.
Yeah. So he goes on here. He hates Sesame Street, Charlie Brown, and the even more infernal Care Bears fit this category of book, which is, in truth, just part of a much larger universe of movies, videos, audio cassettes, and little cuddly things that you are encouraged to buy. These books are to be burned early. Should one
That's
even,
legit, I think. Fuck the Care Bears.
should even one survive, you are hooked, a corporate dependent for life. These conglomerates, by the way, put in question my both basic political principles, since I cannot deny that socialism, whatever its fault, does not permit such things.
Wait, what?
He seems to say that there are no Berenstein Bears in the Soviet Union, so therefore that's one redeeming thing about socialism.
Stalin, he threw a lot of the Berensteins in the gulag during the Doctor's plot.
So, again, that is just one peek.
Sorry, I'm imagining it like a Berenstein Bears oblast in Siberia.
Please, just let us go.
So, yeah, that is just one peek inside the soon-to-be decaying and rotted mind of Charles Krauthammer. Soon to be nothing.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson, he's looking down at Jordan Peterson and he's like, you watch the streets, I'll keep the skies safe. And he's in heaven making sure that no one is, that kids in heaven are watching like He-Man instead of Care Bears.
Again, if you should feel any twinge of guilt, or maybe you wince a little bit at us cheering his impending demise, or if you read his column where he said, I'm sorry, friends, I have but a few weeks to live. I would encourage you to go back and read some of his earlier columns, like, for instance, when he announced that 1 million Iraqis had a few weeks to live sometime in early 2003 in the pages of the Washington Post. So,
yeah, also, don't get mad about people being happy that someone's going to die of natural causes. For fuck's sake, death comes for us all. There's no such thing as death identity politics. We're not goddamn witches. We can't make him die faster.
I mean, I did have that one chance to push him into traffic. I'm down a flight of stairs in a hilarious Rube Goldberg style accident.
Yeah. Well, he left the brake off. It's his fault.
I was his wheelchair, and it was just like that scene in The Untouchables, but at the bottom was just a corn thresher.